Andrew Jackson, the seventh President of the USA. Andrew Jackson is one of the most controversial figures in American history. To some, he was a champion of the common man, a war hero who stood up to elites and reshaped democracy. To others, he was ruthless, hot-tempered, and left behind a legacy of suffering, especially for Native Americans. But one thing is certain: the seventh President of the United States lived a life of extraordinary drama, from his violent youth in the Revolutionary War, to his fiery battles in politics, to his unforgettable presidency that still stirs debate today. Andrew Jackson was born on March 15, 1767, in a log cabin along the border of North and South Carolina. His father died before he was born, leaving his mother to raise him and his brothers in poverty. As a boy of just 13, Jackson volunteered to fight in the Revolutionary War. He was captured by British soldiers, and in one famous incident, when he refused to polish a British officer's boots, he was slashed across the face and hand with a sword. The scars stayed with him for life, both on his skin and in his deep hatred of the British. By the time he turned 14, Jackson had lost his mother and both brothers to war and disease. He was left completely alone in the world. As a young man, Jackson studied law and became a frontier lawyer in Tennessee. He quickly gained a reputation for his fiery temper and his skill in duels. In fact, Jackson fought several duels during his life, one of which left him with a bullet lodged permanently in his chest. Despite his rough edges, he built wealth as a planter and slaveholder, and soon entered politics, becoming Tennessee's first congressman and later a senator. But it wasn't politics that made him a national hero. It was war, military fame, during the War of 1812. Jackson commanded U.S. forces against the British and their Native American allies. His most famous victory came at the Battle of New Orleans in 1815, against overwhelming odds. Jackson's ragtag army of regulars, militia, free African Americans, and even pirates crushed the British. The victory made Jackson a national hero, celebrated as the defender of American freedom. He also fought in wars against Native Americans, earning both praise for his military skill and condemnation for his brutality. Path to the presidency. By the 1820s, Jackson was one of the most popular figures in the country. In the election of 1824, he won the most popular and electoral votes, but not a majority. The decision went to the House of Representatives, which chose John Quincy Adams instead, in what Jackson called a corrupt bargain. Furious, Jackson spent the next 4 years campaigning against Adams and returned in 1828 to win the presidency in a landslide. Jackson's presidency from 1829 to 1837 transformed American politics. He called himself the champion of the common man, and he expanded voting rights to more white men by eliminating property requirements. He reshaped the presidency by using the veto more than all his predecessors combined, asserting himself as the direct voice of the people. His enemies began calling him King Andrew, accusing him of abusing power. One of the defining battles of his presidency was against the Bank of the United States. Jackson believed the bank favored the wealthy elite at the expense of ordinary Americans. He vetoed its recharter and moved federal money into smaller state banks, which critics called pet banks. The fight over the bank defined him as a populist leader who distrusted concentrated power. But his presidency also carries one of the darkest legacies in American history. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 determined to open land in the South for white settlers. Jackson signed the law that forced Native American tribes, including the Cherokee, Choctaw, and Creek, off their ancestral lands. The result was the infamous Trail of Tears, where thousands died during the brutal forced marches westward. This decision has left an enduring stain on his reputation, later years and death. After 2 terms, Jackson retired to his plantation, the Hermitage, in Tennessee. Even in retirement, he remained a powerful voice in politics, supporting his successor Martin Van Buren and shaping the Democratic Party. Jackson's health, however, was fragile. Decades of duels, wars, and illnesses took their toll. He lived with bullets in his body, chronic pain, and constant sickness. On June 8, 1845, Andrew Jackson died at the age of 78. He was buried at the Hermitage beside his beloved wife Rachel, whose death before his presidency he always blamed on the viciousness of his political enemies. Andrew Jackson's life was one of extremes. From orphan to war hero, from president to symbol of both democracy and oppression. He embodied the spirit of his time, fierce independence, personal honor, and relentless ambition, but also its darkest flaws, especially in his treatment of Native Americans. To some, he is a hero of the people. To others, a cautionary tale of unchecked power. What cannot be denied is that Andrew Jackson left a mark so deep on America that his influence still echoes nearly 2 centuries later. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the life of America's 7th president, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories about the leaders who shaped history, both the ones we celebrate and the ones we continue to question.